Welcome back, everyone, and I do mean everyone. It's Forgotten Circus. So, what is going on with horror movies? How come we can't just get that gem that you had back in the day? Horror movies nowadays are so lackluster. I remember going to the theater and sitting in there years and years ago watching horror movies, and I remember the movies when I was a lot younger, the jump scares, the unpredictability, the lighting, you know, the whole the whole show of it, you kind of felt you were in there. Now, a lot of those movies that I watched when I was younger don't hold up now because you're like it's kind of cheesy. But the jump scares, and if you notice when you go to like horror movies nowadays, you don't really see you see a lot of people because I still go to them. I love horror movies. I love all films, but you don't see people where they're like gripping white knuckle in the seat anymore, or they're like, "Oh my God, don't go in there, don't go in there." There's no reaction from the audience anymore because these movies they're not scary anymore. And I know a lot of people are into horror, but sometimes you need a break from reality and just get into the ridiculous of what the extent of what a person can do. Sometimes, most of the times, in a bad way. It's a horror movie. That's why you're going to see it. But like that's what made films like Silence of the Lambs with Hannibal Lecter good. Because it was the first time that you really got into the mind of a serial killer teaming up with an FBI agent to figure out a case. Amazing. The movie's marvelous. And a lot of people didn't like Hannibal and but I did. I liked all it was because it was more of a mind game with the horror, like the pinheads. Um, First time seeing Pinhead on the screen, it was like, oh my gosh, you don't have that in these movies anymore. It seems like we want to keep reboot, and they just beat Jigsaw to death. Like, what are we on? Saw like 15. First one was good. The second one made sense, and then when you started you just beating it to death. That one's overused. And like Ghostface from Scream, iconic mask. That mask, like I used to have like the actual one when I was younger, and I don't know what happened to it. But I wish I still. It was like the exact replica of it, which was insane. And that's why. And then you have some people that have a horror cult following. Watch all the old ones like Texas Chainsaw, Matt Leatherface, Jason, obviously Michael, Freddy. All the classics that they don't want them to be touched. And that's why I'm going to get on the subject. Why do we keep rebooting these horror films? Like you're beating Saw to death. That's too many of them. And now they're coming out with The Strangers, which, to be honest with you, the movie was made for $8 million and gained 80 million. And that was back in 2008. So you do inflation. It did a pretty damn good job. And I'll give it to that movie. The way they did the lighting and the when you couldn't see the facial expressions with the people in the mask on, you felt, and with what was it? Scott Speedman and Liv Tyler in that movie. $8 million budget, so half of that probably went to them. But they did what they could. The practical effects were good. What about the practical effects of like The Thing, horror stuff like that that makes still to this day resonate? Like The Thing still mess me up. The first Alien still. Why can't we bring that magic back? Because you do need that release. You do need to see the other side of stuff. Like The Exorcist. Still to this day, that is one movie that just holds up. Granted, like the film could be remastered a little bit, fix it up, but it was shot at the time, which makes a lot of sense. Great. But we don't have those bone chilling things anymore. What about when old Chucky, Child's Play, was running up the steps to the hospital? It's one of the scariest moments I've ever seen in like horror. That really, and I was younger, but it seems like we're so numb to horror now in the movie industry that everybody's seen it. I mean, you could watch a lot of this stuff on Facebook, Instagram, stuff like this happen, which is insane. that people are allowed to watch that, but that's another topic, another story for another time. But I think we're just numb to it. So now you got to try and reinvent horror. And yes, we did have things like Killer Clowns and and Jeepers Creepers. Say what you want, it's a great horror film until they show who he is and what he is. They should have just kept it. The man in the hat with the truck. If you could have kept it like that, maybe I don't. It's just like these reboots and the screams. What are we on Scream now? Like, oh, it's so many of them. Like, we need to go back and reinvent horror somehow. So you have to adapt it in. You have to adapt it to now and how people are. There's got to be some way, and I don't want those one phone call movies or I got a message or check your mail stuff. No, it's got to be deeper. It's you got to go back to the jump scares and the scariness, the lighting, more practical effects, more. It's just everyday stuff that you see, which is something bad happening around you, and you choose to ignore it because it's something. It's just in the pattern of your day. I don't even know if that makes any sense, but the normal stuff in the world, we need to in those type of movies, we need to incorporate them in with the horror. And I just don't think they can do that. I think that a lot of the big promotion companies and film companies just want to stay hanging on to all the legends. Like you're not going to get your Pennywise again, even in the new ones, even the new it wasn't as good as the original Pennywise. But don't it's Skarsgård. He did his own take on it. But can we come up with something new here? That's the problem. There's nothing new. It's all the same stuff. Like, what about the movies like a Christie? I was terrified of a frigging car. A frigging car. They could bend itself down an alleyway and literally crush somebody. I don't know if it's the fact that they'd run out of stuff. Like, if it's oversaturated, but writers, you always, and I'm not knocking the writers. I understand why you did the writer strike and everything. But if you want to get, kind of, your foot on the ground cemented, we got to come up with some new ideas. Like y'all are writers, you do this. Like, and how much more can we do of Stephen King? I know he wrote some more, but can we get an original idea, original? With Stephen King, all those were like original. You know, and just like with the Strangers that you're rebooting, why I don't know. You're doing the same premise in the first one, and it's just like how they had it, they kept pushing that movie. Can we get like, and I know the Blair Witch does not hold up now, but that was like so original. Nobody had ever seen that, to be honest with you. It was a fantastic idea. Sixth Sense, even though it's more, well, it's horror, thriller, kind of, but Stir of Echoes, how they did those, it's more in the mind. We got to be more in the mind. So there's a difference between like slasher flicks, horror flicks. Um, I'm even going to take it back to like wrong turn. And I know it came out the same time as Hills Have Eyes, and that was that thing, these mutants or inbreds or whatever. But it was pretty cool concept for the first two movies. But then they just lost it. Like I don't know. It's the fact that it's something that we see all the time every day. It's just like the zombie genre. That's kind of worn out now. But we need to get horror back to being more of a mental aspect. When you're in the theater, you're not just watching, you're feeling it, you're going through it. We need better cinematography, better writing too. Let's get some good writing with horror movies. Just don't rely on all the gore, the slashing, and all that. Let's get some good writers in there where you feel the characters' point of view, both characters, whether it's a slasher, killer, murderer, whatever, or the actual possible victims. But we need to get back to that. Maybe one day we will. I don't know, but it's not looking good right now. So I do know that the foreign market has it on lock right now with a lot of the horror films because I've been watching a lot of the foreign films, even though they're in subtitles and stuff. And like the Japanese ones, I mean, taken a lot from the Japanese, like The Grudge, The Ring, and all, but we need to look at what they're doing and improve on it over here. So I don't know. That's just my take. What do you think's going on with horror movies? So tell me what you think. Like, comment, and subscribe. And I want everyone to subscribe. And I do mean everyone.